It's pretty confused, isn't it, Laura? Look, I think John Barilaro had his card marked ever since the text came out that he had a pretty big Barney with Michael McCormick over his not being backed in to what he thought was the proper extent over his potential to contest Eden Monaro. Now, whether or not it was even smart for him to think about making that move is another question because after all, it's so hard to win a seat off of opposition like this in a by-election. So it'd be a huge punt. And number two, he's such an effective deputy premier. And to have him around the cabinet table in New South Wales, you have to wonder whether that was even worth rolling the dice. That said, it looks like the coalition is in a real shambles when it comes to this because you had all the business with Andrew Constance, Barilaro, and it just looks like Labor must be laughing for the first time in months.
Yeah, I think so as well. And Scott Morrison must just be shaking his head behind the scenes. At the beginning of the week, he had three pretty strong candidates, one in the Nationals and two in the Liberal Party, and now none of them exist. Now it looks like we might go back to the woman, indeed, who almost beat Mike Kelly at the general election.
Yeah, and that would very well be a possibility because I think that's all they've got. And I think the idea of going with a local candidate too would probably be pretty attractive too. I think to a lot of the people that I've spoken to who live around that region, there's a lot of sense that they're pretty sick of having candidates, celebrity candidates, brought in from elsewhere to contest these things.
Yeah, that's interesting. Celebrity candidates. Well, we'll see how that all goes. I mean, maybe John Barilaro could reconsider. Who knows?
I don't know. Yeah, well, we'll see about that.
Yeah, well, I didn't think Andrew Constance would pull out either, so I'm not going to make any predictions at this point. Let's look at the front page of The Age this morning as well. This is a story that has quickly gathered pace in Victoria. Abattoir outbreak sparks a probe. Now, federal authorities are going to investigate this cluster at the Melbourne abattoir Cedar Meats. It's now thought there are 49 infections, and those infections could have spread via a close contact to a nursing home.
Yeah, look, this is really going to go down, I think, as Dan Andrews' Ruby Princess moment here. There's so many questions that need to be answered about this, not the least of which is why did the government in Victoria not actually say anything about this when they were talking about an outbreak of one case, I think, connected to a school somewhere? There's a lot of people raising political questions. Dan Andrews has a lot of questions to answer because this company has apparently, reportedly been a Labor donor in the past. And I think a lot of Victorians who are really chafing under some of the tightest lockdown restrictions in the country, they're not even allowed to play golf. People I talk to say that there are cops shushing them away from cafes and things like that, all in the idea of keeping them safe. And yet at this abattoir, at this meatworks, this thing has turned into some sort of super cluster, and the health authorities haven't been able to do anything about it, and they don't seem to have been able to prevent this now from spreading to a nursing home. So, you start to understand why the Andrews government is so skittish. Maybe it's not because they don't trust Victorians to do the right thing. Maybe, they just don't trust themselves.
Yeah, it's interesting the timing of that school infection story that you talk about because it was dropped just a couple of hours after Dan Tehan, the Education Minister, was interviewed on the ABC Insiders program where he made a pretty scathing assessment of Dan Andrews' leadership. It turns out that teacher didn't get it from the school at all. There's even questions about whether he did go to the school while it was even shut down. But anyway, the suggestion
there's a lot of
it could have got it from the student, and that is absolutely not the case because the schools have been shut down.
Exactly, because Victoria is the one outlier, basically against global evidence around the world that says kids should go back to school. But they've got a lot of mates around the place who are trying to push this narrative. I remember when the ABC reported that same story, they dropped the information about the teacher not getting it at the school down to about the 380th paragraph, so that you didn't really get that information. So there's a lot of politics playing around with this, and the teachers' unions, I think, are driving a lot of that in Victoria, as they have been in New South Wales.
Yeah, even the ACT has decided to bring forward its timeline for getting kids back into the classroom. We'll keep an eye on that one. Just quickly before I let you go, the Sydney Morning Herald, virus hit councils to push up rates. I mean, this is really bothering me.
Yeah.
Particularly councils around metropolitan areas. The bush is different, but I don't see how councils have taken a huge hit. I'm certainly paying full rates still. Are you?
Yeah, I'm paying full rates. We're paying full rates. Everyone's paying full rates. A lot of people are losing hours. A lot of people are taking a hit to their wages. And we're seeing on the state and federal levels all sorts of talk about reforming taxes, cutting taxes to get the economy moving. But the lowest, slowest tier of government councils has got their hand out. Will they be using this money for, let's say, expediting DAs so that construction activity can start to happen quicker, getting out of the road of approvals so that the economy can get moving again? Or will they use it, to throw into sort of more multicultural basket weaving courses? I don't know. I don't know why, especially in the metropolitan areas where they won't have been, had a direct impact on this sort of thing, why they've got their hand out. It seems like they're using the old dictum, never let a crisis go to waste on this one.